Brentford are one of the most unique sides in English football. Under Thomas Frank, the Bees are now an established Premier League team, all whilst making some shrewd signings and following a data-driven approach known by many as MONEYBALL. Famously introduced in the American baseball scene, it's allowed Brentford to get ahead of the curve, but it hasn't quite bought them many trophies. So today I'm going to step in as Brentford manager and in 5 years try and continue this good recruitment approach, but also deliver the club a Premier League title. Brentford though are certainly punching above their weight. According to Football Manager, their facilities are nowhere near Premier League quality, and when it comes to their stadium, it's one of the smallest in the Prem despite only being built a few years ago. As you can see, there has been steady progress over the years for Brentford, but no major trophies, the Sky Bet Championship being their biggest achievement. But today we're going to try and change that, and thankfully, because of Brentford's recruitment strategy, we've got some great players at the club already. Signed for only 4 million, Brian Mbeumo is one of the Prem's best attackers. Often his partner up top, £8 million man Johan Wissa, is worth way more than that now. And despite first season struggles, Mikkel Damsgaard is a brilliant creator in the Premier League. But Brentford have bought a lot of these talents in their younger years, and they've done that with plenty more players because there's some huge potential at the club also. Former Liverpool man Fabio Carvalho is certainly one of those who could go to the very top. Florentina Loni, Michael Kayode is expected to be an Italian international in the future, and according to Football Manager, the £1 million 20-year-old Yarmouk could go to the very top. So it's a pretty good squad we've got to work here at Brentford, and hopefully I can continue their success. But there's a twist in this rebuild, because whilst I won't be doing a data-driven Moneyball approach, I'm putting a maximum cap on £10 million for each one of my transfers. I can't spend more than that, so it's not like we're going to be able to sign any superstars, and we're going to have to do some good transfer business to make this work. Thankfully, we have got a decent budget to be able to do so. In our first season, we've got £23 million to spend, but Brentford have also been good when it comes to selling players too, and we're going to try and do the same. If we get an offer that we feel is above market value for our players, I'm going to take it even if they're important to the team, and hope we can replace them with a cheaper signing, all whilst trying to achieve success. And I think in the first few seasons it should be relatively easy because the board just want us to avoid relegation, but the game predicts us a mid-table finish with 13th place being expected, 300 to 1 odds of winning the title, and I'm not saying we're going to be able to do that just yet, but I need a good transfer window under my belt, sell some players on, bring some players in, and hopefully we can start to push up the table and start working our way to those European spots. And in my first season, I've already managed to pick up a few transfers that I think are really going to help this team over the course of this save. I'm thinking long term, I'm trying to buy players for the future, and I'm hoping I've got it right. Let's quickly look at the only sale that we made though, and it wasn't quite a sale, it was just a loan out of a youngster who I think could have huge potential. His name is Yunus Emre Konak. I've never heard of him personally, but he was at the club in the dev centre, so I've loaned him out for the season to the Turkish leagues. Looks like he's a recent signing for Brentford for about £4 million, and the game values him at way higher than that, so hopefully he can get some game time under his belt, develop and raise his profile. But coming in, I've added two players. The first is a Portuguese defender that I think represented good value for money. His name is Diogo Liet. He is a 25-year-old former under-21 international, 6'3", left-footed, ball-playing defender that I don't think many people would know off the top of their heads. I personally didn't, but we found him at Union Berlin. Our scouts rated him, and we paid £7 million, rising to 7.5 for a player that really is considered first team quality, considered good enough to potentially be one of the better defenders at the club, and it's an area where I felt like we lacked a bit of depth. As was centre midfield, where I've added another player for the future. I've gone for the Belgian 21-year-old Astor of Ranks, who I thought was way too good to turn down at only 4.5 million from Wolfsburg. Now I felt like he wasn't quite ready to come in and influence our team just yet, so we're loaning him back out there for the season, let him get some game time, come to us next year as a better player. But as you can tell, he could be a brilliant all-round midfielder and someone that can put in a tackle and win the ball back. And we're going to need that because I'm planning to play a high-octane style of football. We're going for a 4-2-4 gegenpress, not quite all that attack, but we are focusing a lot on goal scoring. And currently, with the team the way it is, this is what is considered our best 11. So let's introduce you to the team. Mark Flecken is in goal. The 31-year-old goalkeeper is safe hands in the net with Aaron Hickey, the Scottish 22-year-old 22-year-old as a huge potential option at fullback, with Rico Henry as our best on the left supposedly. At centre-back, we have Ben Mee, 34 years of age. He's not going to be around for too long, hence the signing of a new centre-back, with Christopher Ajer supposedly as our other best central defender, but I imagine the Irishman Nathan Collins is going to have something to say about that, because he looks to be a great option at centre-back. In the midfield, we have Christian Norgard, a name synonymous now with Brentford, at 30 years of age, and Matthias Jensen too, 28, making up a Danish midfield. We see the Danes continue with Damsgaard on the left, who we've met, and Buemo on the right, with Johan Wisser up top, and then Kevin Schade as our other best striker. The German international 22-year-old is a player that can operate on the wing and also up front, who I'm hoping we can get the best out of. Supposedly, he's valued at 70 million. I don't quite think that value is right, but there's also this guy, the Brazilian Thiago, signed for, in Brentford's terms, pretty big money, 28 million very recently in the most recent season. So fingers crossed he's someone that can perform well. But that is our team ready to go. We've added a couple players to it, one for the future and one for right now. And according to the game, it hasn't affected us all that much. We're still predicted 13th place, and I would be totally fine with that in season 1. But fingers crossed we can prove some people wrong, get some good performances under our belt, and start to make a team that can actually compete for this Premier League. And in our first season here at Brentford, it's gone exactly as I would have expected. Nothing spectacular, nothing terrible, just a good year to kind of learn where we're at and see if this system is going to work. And being perfectly honest, it was pretty hit and miss. We had some terrible results like losing 3-0 to Wolves and losing 4-0 to Newcastle, but we also managed to beat Leicester away 6-1, and we managed to dispatch Chelsea in a 3-2 home victory. So was it the world's greatest season? No. Were we expecting it to be? Definitely not. And we finished with a very respectable 12th place, one place above where we were initially predicted at the beginning of the season, beating the likes of Manchester United in the league table with 50 points, 13 wins, 14 losses, and -5 goal difference. It was very hit and miss, like I say. One game we were great, one game we were terrible, and that's likely down to the system and the players maybe not suiting it too well. So hopefully the right recruitment strategy can take us up a few places in the league. But it's Leicester, Brighton, and Ipswich who have gone down, Brighton being the surprising team to have been relegated there. But I'll definitely take that as a first season, particularly when you see some of our best performers, because there's some players there that I wouldn't have quite expected. The first one, Michael Caillou, did brilliantly at right back despite his young age, and he is the only player where we're kind of breaking the rule a little bit on how much we're going to pay, because every player, like I say, will cost us under 10 million, but Michael Caillou has an optional future fee in his contract of 13, which, based on the player that he is, makes perfect sense to activate and is smart business. So he's the only one where we'll go ahead of that £10 million mark, because he already had that fee agreed in his contract. But yes, he was a brilliant player. The one that really surprised me though was Keane Lewis Potter, who isn't really a player that I know too much about. I know he does play for Brentford in real life pretty regularly, but he's done so well in this save. 10 goals, 9 assists, and one of our stars of the season really, and potentially a future England international if he can keep this up. We also saw 11 goals from Visser, we saw 3 from Jensen, Aaron Hickey scored 4 whilst Kevin Schade got 8, and Brian and Buemo hit 13. Goals from all over the pitch, everyone contributing. Ben Mee is going to be a big miss. He was always around at centre-back, but is retiring at the end of this season, so we'll be saying goodbye to him and the 6 goals that he managed to deliver to the club. But now this is where the fun begins, because we head in to season 2 with 50 million to spend, £99,000 of wage budget. We're still going to have to follow our strict transfer structure, but I think this could now be the point where we start building a team that we really think could compete higher up the table. But to do that, we're going to need to sell some players, we need to bring some players in, and hopefully make some big transfers. And in Season 2, I think we've got off to a fantastic start in the transfer window. We've made some great deals, but as always, if you've watched these videos, you know what's coming. If you wouldn't mind, before I show you them, if you could smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, it would really help the videos in terms of pushing it out here on YouTube, particularly with Football Manager content being in a bit of a lull right now as we wait for FM 25, 26, whatever it's going to be called, I don't know at this point. But yeah, any support, massively appreciated. So thank you to anyone who does that, but let's go and check out the transfers we made. made. The first move out was a loan for Frank Onyeka, a player that wasn't at the club last season. He was in Germany with Augsburg, but now I've loaned him out to Michelin for the season for a £3 million loan fee. Josh Da Silva wanted to move on with his contract coming towards its end, so I've sold him to Osasuna out in Spain for a fee of 3.2 million. He only played 4 times last year, all off the bench, so to get any money for him made sense. Ethan Pinnock was an unfortunate one. He's a player that I would have liked to have kept around a bit longer, but at 32, he obviously wanted one final move. He asked to leave the club, having only played 8 times last season, 3 as a starter, so you can understand it, and he now moves to Saudi Arabia for 7.5 mil. We kept the transfer flips going with Mark Flecken, who was wanted by Arsenal as their new backup goalkeeper, and having been bought recently for 11 million, we have sold him for 18 million, rising to 22, but that of course meant that we needed a new goalkeeper. But not before 2 bigger sales were made. The first one was Christian Norgard, who has moved to Al Quadzia at age 31, a name that will be associated with Brentford for a long time. He had a good year for us last season, but to turn £3 million into 18 million, rising to 20 for a player that is in the later years of his career, was moving towards the end of his deal as well, it all made sense to let him go. But the biggest sale was Rico Henry, a player again synonymous with Brentford. He's been there for years and has worked his way up with them from his time in the Championship. He's been a regular in the Premier League, but now he's moved on to Al Ittihad for 26 million. This is one where I did actually reject the first bid, but he wanted the move, and when you see how much they're offering, you can kind of see why. We couldn't really stand in his way. We got a good chunk of money for him as well, so as big of a miss as it is, I think we had to take that deal. And with the cash that we made and that original transfer budget, we have had a big window signing some great players. Before we see them though, if you do like this rebuild and you'd like to give it a go yourself, then you can find the save files for it over on my Patreon, which to be honest is the best way to support me as a creator as well. So if you fancied helping me out, you can check it out in the description over there. Not only are the save files available, but you get to watch the rebuilds early and ad-free before they're over here on YouTube, and you can vote for what rebuild you want to see next in the rebuild poll. Brentford was a team that was in the rebuild polls for a while and has now got its chance to shine, but if you want to have your impact over there, if you want to support me as well, that's the best place to do it. So thank you to anyone who checks the Patreon out. It's a great place to be, and thank you to all of you people that are already over there. It means the world. But let's see who we've signed for the club. Well, let's not forget that Astra of Ranks is going to be playing for us this season. After his loan out at Wolfsburg last year, he's got some more Belgian caps, some more experience, and looks to be a very complete player. But we've managed to find a bargain, as Brentford always seem to do, at Barcelona with Alex Varley, who's going to come in to be our new left back alongside Aaron Hickey. Now Rico Henry has left. He was on loan at Celtic last season, didn't play, but is a Barcelona Academy player. 2.5 million for someone that, even if he was just a backup left back, I think I'd be totally happy with. He's got some potential too to get better, and I think for the money we've paid, he's certainly worth it. Talking about value for money, there's probably none better than Norwegian Sverre Hausif Naipan. The 18-year-old was found by our scouts, and I was so happy because if you don't know, I don't sign any players in these rebuilds that my scouts don't recommend, so I'm really hoping that they bring up players like this, especially when I know how good they can be. And Naipan is a brilliant talent. 5 million from the Norwegian divisions for a player that is playing way beyond his years, valued at 100 million, certainly worth that 5 million fee. We needed a new goalkeeper though, with Flecken leaving, and it is the Bundesliga where we have found our new shot stopper in Martin van der Voort, a 23-year-old Belgian former under-21 international. He's a good keeper. He's had his issues over the years, but he's been playing regularly since he was young at Genk. He went to Leipzig and didn't do great, wasn't their main goalkeeper, so was available for 7.5 million. But again, our scouts rate him highly. They think he could be a good goalkeeper. He just needs a chance in the net to shine, and hopefully he'll do a good job for us. For 9 million quid, another bargain comes in, getting towards the top end of the amount we're allowed to spend. Flavio Enzo Boyomo is the player, a Cameroonian 23-year-old defender who we have picked up from Osasuna in La Liga. He did pretty well for them last season, not playing all that much, but again, another one that our scouts have trusted. From what they can tell based on his attributes and his performances over his career, they think he could be a good signing. As you can see, only pros, no cons in his coach report, so it made sense to bring him in. For 9 million, he's going to be a great option with Ben Mee departing. And of course, Michael Kayode's deal was made permanent, the only transfer in this rebuild that will go above the £10 million mark because of that pre-agreed fee. But 13 million is a great deal for a player that, as you can tell, is valued at way more. £70 million, now an Italian international. What a right back, what a signing, and that was our transfer business complete. And despite the mixed performances in year one, I am going to still stick out with this formation. Is it going to work long term? I'm not too sure, but right now it's what I want to keep trying. With the right players, I think it could work, and our best 11 has changed quite a lot, with Van der Voort coming in, Nathan Collins, Vranks and Naipan both making it in to that central midfield area. The front four is pretty much the same, with Keane Lewis Potter now being predicted as our best left winger and Mbeumo and Wissa as our best strike partnership. And if we have a look at the season preview, the board are now expecting more. They want mid-table, but the game is still predicting 13th place, 250 to 1 odds of winning the title. But what I do like is that we've got a pretty good young team here with some experienced heads around them. So if we can just develop these youngsters, we might not even have to make too many more transfers. This team could be one that could push up the table and prove us wrong, but only time will tell. And in recent years for Brentford as a club, I think they can say that they've had some steady progress, slowly getting better and better year on, year out. And actually, I think we've done exactly that this season. Whilst we weren't the best team in the history of football, we did manage to beat Liverpool 2-1 at Anfield and Manchester United 1-0 at Old Trafford, but we'd still have games where we get absolutely battered, like when Tottenham managed to stick 5 past us in a massive defeat. But as I said, we're having steady progress, and our league table shows that, with a 9th place finish this year, slowly working our way up, 55 points, still about the same amount of wins as losses, only 1 more win than the losses, and still a negative goal difference, which is something we might want to work on. But you know what? It's a good season. 5 points away from an eventual European place, which Newcastle took, 3 points behind Chelsea. A much better year for us, and it shows that we are working in the right direction, and this tactic could work with the right players. If we have a look at our top performers this year though, there's a few surprises that come to the front. The first one being Thiago, who mainly performed as a secondary backup striker for us, but he managed to do well when called upon, scoring a big chunk of goals, 10 this season in fact in all comps. Keane Lewis Potter was probably our best regular starter with 41 starts and 16 goals, as well as a bunch of assists as well, proving that the Englishman is probably our star player at this point. There was also 16 from Mbeumo, we had 7 from Yohan Wissa, and overall it's all the players you'd expect to perform that did so. A lot of our youngsters getting some good game time and developing too, like Naipan and Mbeumo. Naipan coming along very well at only 19 years of age, so we are looking like we're in a pretty good place right now. I have also been working on the facilities in the background, trying to improve them as we go, but financially, this is exactly what we want to see. With Brentford, you want a big bank balance, we want to be making more money in sales than we're spending, and we've done that so far. When it comes to the debts and loans, there's barely anything there, and transfer-wise, we have now got £90 million to spend. We spent nowhere near our full budget last season. We want to be shrewd with the business, we want to bring in the right players, and we've got to hope we can find them in Season 3. And in our 3rd season, I can safely say I'm very much enjoying this style of recruitment. We're not able to go out and sign every player that looks good. We're having to be really targeted with the players we want and try and bring them in for as low a value as possible, and I think we've done a great job. Firstly, we did manage to get some money back on Frank Onyeka, who spent last season out on loan at Midtjylland, made us 3 million, and now he's signed to Copenhagen for 3 mil, making us around 6 million from a transfer that cost 8. There also would have been a fee at Augsburg as well when he played 40 times for the club, so it's not a huge loss. Yunus Emre Komrak is going out on loan again. This is the Turkish player we looked at before, who is now an international and looks very good. He actually spent last season with us, developing a bit more, and now he's ready for a much better move in Turkey, going to Konyaspor, who are one of the better clubs there, I believe, and he's now valued at 30 million, so he's heading in the right direction. But there were 2 major sales this summer. The first one was a bit of a disappointing one, actually. Mikkel Damsgaard goes to Celta Vigo. He's just not really hit the heights that he has in real life recently for Brentford in this save. I mean, he's played a lot of football, just never really contributed enough, lots of poor average ratings, so we sold him for pretty much the same fee that Brentford originally paid for him, so it's not the end of the world. And then there was also a move away for Vitaly Janelt, who has gone to Galatasaray for a fee of 11 million. Signed back in the day from Bochum for 500,000. He spent years at the club. Since we've taken charge, he's been a bit part player off the bench, but still an important team member. Now though, he moves for 15 million. He wanted to move. He'll be a regular starter at Galatasaray, so good luck to him. We make some cash and we could reinvest that in our new signings. And it's that midfield area where there's been a big focus this season. The first player that came in is one that's been loaned out for the future. Like we did with Vranks, we have signed Benjamin Kramashi from Inter Miami. He plays regularly for the MLS club at 21 years of age. Last season, he was very good for them and continues to be one of their star players. £6 million is the fee, which I actually think for what we're getting is a bargain, a hard-working midfielder who, if all goes well in his development, could be an excellent box-to-box box option. It's not just young players we buy though, we want to find undervalued players, and I think we got one in Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, who is on the transfer list at Chelsea for £6 million, which I think is a pretty good fee for a player that was one of Leicester's best when he was there, and at Chelsea, whilst he wasn't playing, he is clearly a talented player. Again, a very good box-to-box option, who I think will suit Brentford down to the ground, to be honest. A hard worker who's going to put the team before individual performance. I think he could be a great option to have for us. Brentford, though, are known for signing players kind of out of nowhere, and I think we've done so with Jose Juan Macias, who is a Mexican international, 26 years of age, who we have bought in from Santos Laguna out in the Mexican division. 7.5 million could rise to 10 for a player that has scored a ton of goals out in Mexico, and when you look at him, it could be the perfect profile as a goal scorer and that left-hand side, cutting in on his right foot, maybe playing as a striker option too. I'm very happy with the signing of him, and whilst he is only valued at £10 million here, I think that's going to go up. But for a flat fee of 9.25 million, we have bought in an extra midfield option in Sivert Mansver. There's going to be a lot of competition in the middle of the pitch, but hopefully that will mean the cream rises to the top and we get some good players out of it. This is a 24-year-old Norwegian international who we've bought in from Ajax for 9.25 million. He's been very good over there in the Eredivisie for both the second team and then the first team over at Ajax. So you know what? I think this is going to be a very good player, 6'1", a good defensive option who's decent with the ball at his feet as well, and a nice player to have in the middle of the park. And as we head into our third season, now over halfway through the transfer windows with the club, this is what we're now looking at as our best 11. It's not changed too much from what we've seen previously. Martin van der Voort is still our goalkeeper after a much better first year for us than he had at Leipzig, developing nicely. Coyote, Collins, Boyomo and Hickey is a good young defence, with Franks and Naipan as an even younger midfield in front of them, and Buemo, Lewis Potter, flank Wisser and Macias up top, with plenty of great players on the bench and the reserves too. There'll be a lot of competition this season, but I'm hoping that will drive success. Now this year, we are predicted by the board, they want mid-table, but the game itself thinks we're going to finish in 12th place. But also, whilst that's only a 1 place difference, we've gone from 300 to 1 odds of winning the title to 100 to 1. So clearly we're deemed better. Granted, I'm not expected to win the title just yet, but I want to see us perform higher in the table. If we get another season of mixed results and a low goal difference, maybe we'll switch the tactic up. But for right now, we're going to go for it and hopefully close in on a European spot. And this season, in Season 3, I think it's safe to say it was a bit of a disappointment. But saying that, we did have our best season in a cup competition so far, managing to beat Everton and Wolves to make it to an FA Cup final, where our competition on the day was the mighty Manchester City, who in this world have signed Rodrigo, Musiala and Vinicius Jr., as well as Theo Hernandez, and it was Vinicius who opened the scoring. It's not often that Brentford get to go to Wembley though, so when we had the chance to get a goal back, we took it. Theo Hernandez making a mistake, allowing Visser to find Mbuemo to make it 1-1, and that was the result all the way until extra time, when eventually Man City found the opening, Musiala scoring the header, and it was that man Musiala again in the 102nd minute to seal the deal for the citizens, managing to get the ball and finish from close range. We didn't give in though, we did manage to fight back late on in the 119th minute, Thiago taking the ball down well, managing to slide it across to Macias, but that was the final result. We lost 3-2, and it was a disappointing defeat. As well as we had done, we missed out on the trophy, but probably even more disappointing was our league performance. Because whilst 13th place isn't terrible for Brentford, we've been so much better than that in recent years, and I think we really do need to change the tactic, because yes, our points total wasn't much less than before, but we finished all the way in that 13th position, basically back to where we started. 19 losses, 16 wins, minus 10 goal difference, only 3 draws. As you can tell, we are conceding far too many. We either win by loads of goals and absolutely smash a team, or we come up against a team with decent tactics and they manage to absolutely destroy us. So we might need to be a bit more conservative in what we're doing, maybe take a step back, realise we've got quality in this team and build around it, as opposed to trying to be a bit more gung-ho and, you know, just going for it the way we have been. So yeah, maybe we need to change something. This season, we did lack goals, to be honest, and Mbuemo was our best with 10 goals. There was 8 from Thiago, 7 from Visser, 13 from Keane Lewis Potter, who is still one of our top performers and is now wanted by Al Nassr. But yeah, I mean, it's not good enough, really. I want to be doing better than this. Granted, there have been improvements to the club as a whole over time. We've made the facilities better, and financially, we are looking in a good place, considering the Premier League money hasn't came in just yet for next season. We've got 78 million quid to spend, £73,000 a wage budget, but after this season's disappointment, I really need to get the transfers right in Season 4, else this rebuild's going to be a flop. And in Season 4, in terms of what Brentford do, buying some unknown players and flipping them into top tier talents, I think we might have hit the nail on the head, but there was also a major sale. I'm going to start with the departures though, where the first one who moves away is Sivert Mansverk, who after one season is going out on loan to Monza. He just didn't play much last season, so I want him to get some more football under his belt and develop over there. Thiago has gone out on loan to Schalke, and you'll see why I've let a striker go in a few minutes. Yarmolyuk, the young Ukrainian, is developing nicely, so he's gone out on loan to Alaves to get some more first team football. And we're trying to find a move away eventually for Matthias Jensen, so he's gone to Hoffenheim for the season for a £2 million loan fee. In terms of permanent sales though, we sell our backup goalkeeper Hakan Ralf Aldemirson to Bayern Munich for 500k. And the first real flop signing I think it's safe to say we've made is Diogo Leite, who's been a good option at centre-back over the years, performing here and there basically as our fourth choice, but for 7 million to then go on to sell him for, you know, £500,000, it's not very good, I'll be totally honest. Probably got, what, 20 appearances out of him in that time? Not the best. But not every transfer has to be perfect when you're developing players to sell on for big money, because Keane Lewis Potter has made up for all the other transfer errors. This guy has moved to Arsenal. He wanted the move, and it was hard to reject 45 million rising to 60 for a player that has been really good for us, yes, but we bought him for 16 million a few years ago, and now he's moving on to Arsenal for 60 mil. He'll then get England caps, I'm sure, but yes, we lose a great player, but we get a huge chunk of money to spend. And in the market, I think we've done exceptionally well. The first signing is Kusanov, who in this save isn't quite starting for Man City. Instead, he was at Manchester City, didn't play, went to Lyon and proved he was a good player in Ligue 1, but Man City let him go, so we picked him up as a free agent on a pretty big deal, but as a good option at centre-back. But this is where I love the fact we've had to really stoop around the market to find the right player, because I've never heard of Darko Churilinov, I don't know how you pronounce it, but he's a 27-year-old North Macedonian international who on the wing is considered as an elite player for our team, who we picked up for 1.9 million from Hanover. Now, even if he ends up being terrible, for that fee, I think we've done a great job here, because he's now valued at over 10 million, and we could flip that pretty easily. So yeah, I'm very happy to have him in the club. The same goes for this player, Matthias Siedl. I have never heard of in my life. He's an Austrian international 26-year-old who our scouts raved about. Both-footed, a good creator who we've picked up from Rapid Vienna, where he's been excellent, for 7.5 million. Really shows we're not looking in the normal places for players here, because I never would have found him normally, but he looks to be a great pickup. I've then bought in a new gen player, the first one of this rebuild, so for anyone that continues to save over on Patreon, you have a future wonder kid in Max Duran, a Mexican international centre-back at 18, who we've signed for 8 million from Deportivo Guadalajara, and then loaned him out for the season to continue his growth. It's under 10 million, and I'm sure he's going to be valued at way more than that in only a year's time. I've added to our forward line as well, bringing in Armando Broja, an out-and-out striker instead of these winger/striker molds that we've had with Sharda and with Mbuemo previously. Broja is going to be the main man up top. He's a physical presence, 6'3", he's pacey, he's strong, he's not had a great time at Chelsea, and for that reason, his value is low, but for under 10 million, he is a bargain signing in my eyes. But we have added to our wing options with the signing of Christopher Bonsu Bar, a 22-year-old Ghanaian international who has got electric pace, 9 million from Genk, where he's been excellent out in Belgium. He's going to be a top talent, a good dribbler with some nice flair, maybe not the best goal scorer, but he can create, cutting on that left foot. He's going to be a great option off the right. But as you can see, I'm trying to change the tactic up a little bit. We're moving to a 4-2-3-1. Basically, I've changed the central midfield roles, and I've altered one of the strikers to drop back and just play behind the striker. Not quite as a 10, I don't want him being creative, but I want him just playing off of Broja, and I think Siedl could be a great pickup from that. But as you can tell, our best 11 is now totally different. It's Van der Voort, Coyote, Collins, Boyemo, and Hickey. Only Collins, Hickey, and Coyote, as well as Mbuemo, are still in the team that we initially inherited, because Vranks, Naipan, Siedl, Chernalov, and Broja are all players that we've brought in ourselves. Now, there's still a lot of the original Brentford players in the bench and the reserves, but there's some great options, the likes of Carvalho, who will certainly get more game time now in that 10 spot. We've got Alex Varley, Dewsbury Hall, Rosalev, Sharda, Aya, lots of options here at the club. And if we have a look at the season preview now, the board still expect mid-table, but the game thinks that we could finish in 11th. 100 to 1 odds of winning the trophy. We're still a mile off winning it, let's be totally honest, but all being well, hopefully this season, now we've changed the tactic, we can start pushing up the table with this more refined set of players that I think we've built. And this season, in Season 4, we've had a much better year. Now granted, in the cup competitions we went out early, it was nowhere near as good there, but that meant we could focus on the Prem. And we showed great form, winning every game in December and Jan, including beating City, as well as managing to beat Chelsea for a Broja goal, and also cruising to a victory against Liverpool of all clubs, managing to beat them 3-0. And it led to by far our best finish yet and our best season. The combination of transfers, young players getting better, and a new tactic has helped us to a 4th place finish. Champions League football for Brentford, 10 losses, 24 wins, 4 draws, and 28 goal difference, only 3 points away from Man City in 2nd place. And to be honest, not that far off a trophy won by Spurs on a very low, to be honest, 82 points. In most seasons that would be nowhere near enough, but we have cleared far and away where we finished in other years. Granted, our normal 50-55 points would have got us 9th place this season, so it wouldn't have been terrible, but I am delighted to finally have European football, and not just European football, Champions League football. And there's a reason for this change. Yes, a tactic, but goals were looking like a much easier thing to come by this year, with Broja scoring 22, our best single performance from any player just yet. Kayo got 3, but Mbeumo was also reinvigorated in this new tactic with 15. Benjamin Kramashi, who was at Inter Miami last season, came to us this year and tore it up in the midfield, managing to score 6 and assist 6 in a very good Premier League debut. But there was goals from everywhere. We had Sharda with 4, Boyomo with 5, 8 from Chernalov in his first year for £1 million. Bargain. Seidel, 7 goals, bargain. Nathan Collins with 5, Aya with 4, Ranks with 3. This is a real team performance and exactly what we were looking for here with Brentford. And even Fabio Carvalho starting to get in on the app now and performing in the first team. So this is exactly what we wanted to see. I'd rather it have been a couple years earlier, but at least we're here, and now we head into the final season with a club that's looking way more like a Premier League regular now when it comes to facilities. We're trying to work on a stadium improvement as well, and financially, the club's in a great place. 115 million in the balance. Not many Prem clubs would have a positive balance like that, especially with no real debt or loan. And now we head into our final season with, again, a huge budget. We're probably not going to use all of it, but if we can find the right players out there, we could take this team to another level and hopefully win it in the last season. And in our 5th and final transfer window, it's been a bit different to the others because we haven't really made that many signings. We've mainly focused on sales and trimming down the squad to only the key players. But before we see that, this is the last time I will ask you, the final season of the video. If you have enjoyed to this point, if you're still watching, hitting that like button really does help the videos. You don't understand what it can actually do here on YouTube. It sees that you've liked it, thinks the video is great, and pushes it out to more people. So thank you to anyone who does that. We're also trying to get to 50k subs. So if you haven't yet subscribed, we do this thing every single week, all these rebuilds. So if you enjoy it, make sure you hit that button and feel free to get involved in the comments down below. Always nice to chat to you guys, but let's see the signings and the sales. Our first outgoing sees Sepp van der Berg leave the club to go and sign for FC Twente for 475,000. Matthias Jensen also moves on a permanent deal, signing for Bologna for 2.9 mil, having been at Hoffenheim last year and doing pretty well. Mads Rusalev didn't really play for us in this rebuild. He's always been back up to Coyote, and for that reason he wanted out. So off he goes to Leeds for just under 3 mil. Another kind of flop transfer I guess we can consider is Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, who has moved on, having complained about his game time. We got 17 appearances out of him over his career here at Brentford in 2 seasons, and then made £3 million back. So he didn't exactly cost us the world. It wasn't terrible, but yeah, he's out the door. Christopher Aya has also moved on permanently, signing for Al Weda for £10 million. He's been a really good player for us over the years, but his importance was starting to dwindle as his ability lessened over time. Thiago also leaves on a permanent, signing for Bologna for just over 4 million. A big transfer, not made by us, mind you, who hasn't quite worked out. Scored some good goals here and there though, so you know what? Credit to him, good luck in Italy. Mansverk has also moved on, signing for Leeds United as Rusalev did, and in this one we've done quite a good job, loaning him out to Monza, getting some money for him, coming back to us and selling him for more than we paid for 12 mil. So at least we make some cash on him. It's not all doom and gloom. We then saw Matthias Seidel leave after 1 season to sign for Al Ittihad. Another one where it was, I'll be super upset if you don't let me go, and hard to blame him. We do double our money, which is great from a player that wasn't exceptional but was useful. But at Al Ittihad, he's earning, 5 times what he would have earned here for sure. if not way more than that actually. 30 million quid he's now valued at. He obviously wanted to go for the paycheck, and good luck to him. And speaking of moving to Saudi Arabia, our final sale was Kevin Schade, who has moved to Al Nassr. Still a great player now, only 26, has got loads of years left in the tank, but we make big money on what the club initially paid for him, 21 million, rising now to 36 million, so we make over 15 mil on that sale. We get good contribution from him over the years, and he was running low on his deal as well, so you know what, it makes sense all around for us. Coming in, I decided to add a bit of depth at right back to help Coyote out with the leaving of Rusalev, so in comes Victor Gomez, a 28-year-old Spanish fullback valued at 50 million, who we signed on a free, having just left Braga. Obviously, you wouldn't actually get 50 mil for him, but it's good to show we have identified a good talent there. And then having seen how well Broja did last season, and with Schade leaving, I wanted a striker that can come in and do a great job, basically as a Broja replacement. As soon as Broja goes off, he will come on and offer us everything that Broja offers, if not a little bit of a different dynamic with his height. It's Lorenzo Luca, the player that I think he was in the news recently for refusing to not take a penalty or something like that, but either way, he's been at Udinese, scoring a few goals in Serie A to be fair, so signing him on a free will be great, especially when he only wants to be a squad player. He knows his role, he's going to help the team out, and even if it's only 5 goals that he scores, that's perfect for me. So as we head into our final season here at Brentford, this is what we're left with as our best 11. In goal, it is Van der Voort, a very good goalkeeper who we rejected a £40 million bid from Inter Milan in this window. We have Coyote at right back developing nicely, alongside Nathan Collins, who's done brilliantly to stay in the team at centre-back, and another one that we rejected over £60 million for in this window. We have Boyomo alongside him, now a French international apparently. Obviously rates his chances of getting in the national team. Speaking of internationals though, Aaron Hickey, over 50 caps for Scotland and still so young. Kramashi and Naipan make up a very young midfield, with Naipan still only being 21 and considered a world-class midfielder, with Mbuemo, Carvalho, Chernalov and Broja making up the rest of that best 11, but we have Kusanov, Luka, Vranks, Gomez, Visser, Macias, Bonsu Bar, even Max Duran, the young new gen who is now actually a wonder kid at centre-back. Lots of great options all around the pitch, and if we have a look, the board want top half, and the game thinks we're going to finish in 9th, 50-1 odds of winning the title. It shows we're definitely going in the right direction. Naipan is also now considered one of the best in the league too, so I feel like we're doing everything right here. And speaking of doing everything right, the club is now valued at £1 billion. We have amazing facilities all round that are only getting better, and financially, a massive balance of 170 million, a £150 million transfer budget. And if we look at our youth team, they are developing some good players we might be able to sell on in the future. So I think we're in a good place. We're going into our final season now, still with no silverware. I really want to win the Prem in our final year. We're going to go for it and hopefully deliver everything that we set out for here at Brentford. But of course, there's also the challenge of Champions League football now. And in our 5th season, unfortunately, our first foray into Champions League football didn't go great. We did make it out of a league phase, and we faced off against Rangers in the knockout playoff round. A fairly favourable draw where we did go 1-0 up through Bonsu Bar, but in the end, Rangers managed to kill us at the Ibrox, managing to beat us in a 3-1 victory, so we came crashing out. But thankfully, there was a different competition that we were doing well in, because in the FA Cup, we had once again made the later stages a semi-final against Chelsea. And who else to score the winner against his former club than Armando Broja, yet again proving to be Chelsea's bane. And of course, that set up a FA Cup final where we had a pretty favourable draw, to be honest. Either team would take it as a huge win. It was us against Leeds United. And with so much on the line, it was a tense match. Not many chances, but Broja scored a brilliant winner in the 94th minute, and that won us the FA Cup, and it meant we had secured our first bit of silverware in this rebuild. But what about the Prem? Well, I'll be honest, I'll hold my hands up. We have failed in that aim. In 5 years here, I wanted to win the league with Brentford. Hasn't quite worked. I mean, we finished in 5th place. Not terrible at all, actually a really good finish. Champions League football again is massive for the club. Only 1 draw all season, 13 losses is far too many to win a league, 23 goal difference and 73 points. We won more games than pretty much anyone, and we had barely any draws, but way too many losses, let's be honest, finishing 11 points away from eventual winners Spurs. I have no doubt in another year or so we could get there, but on that front, I guess we have failed, and I know there'll be some people saying, I could easily manage Brentford in 5 years to the Prem, And you definitely could if you're managing day to day and signing whoever you want, signing wonder kids and whatnot. But the amount of players we missed out on because of our £10 million limit, it definitely played a factor. But you know what? That was the twist in this rebuild. It was the challenge we had. And I still think we've made some great signings and helped Brentford as a club along the way. In fact, I don't think I've ever had a bigger bank balance at a club in 5 years than this. 229 million in the overall balance at Brentford with no major transfer debt either is pretty much unheard of. We would have had a £163 million budget in future seasons. And probably at that point, Brentford would forego their shrewd business in the market and they would just go for it. We have massively improved the facilities at the club, and this year actually we had some top performers with a very young team that we can really rely upon in the future. I mean, our best being Carvalho, Van der Voort, Broja, Coyote and Kramashi, all of which are young players. I mean, Naipan as well doing great, and Bremo with 13. Broja scored 26 as well. It was a good young squad, some great performers. I mean, Fabio Carvalho did very well considering he was kind of down and out in this rebuild as time went on. Swansea, Braga, but eventually worked his way into being one of our best players and realising some of that potential that he did have at the start of his save. But I don't think we've got many deals wrong. We've made a lot of great transfers here, improved the team massively. Michael Coyote has also became an icon at the club over time as Naipan and Thomas Frank leave on the favoured personnel section. We don't make it onto the list, probably because of no trophy, really, no major trophy. But the FA Cup is the biggest trophy that Brentford have ever won. They would absolutely love it if they won that in real life. And we have done it all on a shoestring budget, making an unbelievable young team. But there we go. That's a Brentford rebuild done. Let me know on Patreon who you want to see in the next rebuild. Drop your ideas below in the comments here on YouTube. I do prioritise the ones over on Patreon. But give me some ideas. Let me know what you want to see. Like the video if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.